good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to FintEdu's webinar on ADIT, which is Advanced Diploma in International Taxation. As we all know, ADIT results were declared recently, and we have the second examination slot coming up in December. So, for this webinar, the idea is to talk about what exactly ADIT is, how it can advance your career, what are the core modules, what specializations you can do, and tips for examination success and strategies. And for this webinar, we have Prerna with us, who is known for her workshops on ADIT course preparation. And before I welcome Prerna, I just want to let you all know that FintEdu is offering a special discount to all the participants who will enroll for today's who will enroll after today's webinar for ADIT prep workshop. The new batch will be starting in September. More details will share towards the end of the webinar. And it's a 1-hour webinar. We'll be sharing a recording of the webinar also with all our participants. I would like to welcome Prerna for this webinar. Prerna, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Anu, and thanks to FintEdu for organizing this and for taking the lead. I think Anu promptly told me that this would be very, very relevant for the GCC audience. I was just introducing that why one should do ADIT, how is it specifically relevant from the GCC perspective. So as you are seeing that, UAE has recently introduced the corporate tax, and there are so many nuances. I understand it's a domestic tax law, but there is always interaction of the domestic tax law with the taxation of the other countries. That's what international taxation is all about, right? International taxation is nothing but where two countries' tax laws interact with each other. You have to know domestic tax law of two countries and then the tax treaties which follow. So for understanding the tax treaties, see, till now when there was no domestic tax law, it was a very different situation. But now when you have it, you have to always fall back on the tax treaties, right? When you fall back on the tax treaties, you need to know certain fundamental principles. So basically, if you look to the tax treaties, most of the tax treaties are based on either the OECD model or the UN model tax convention, either of these. And it's a standard template. Of course, every treaty is different from how the other treaty is, but in a way, the template is more or less same. That's why it is important to understand how the treaties are drafted, how the treaties are to be interpreted. The interpretation of the domestic tax law is very different from the interpretation of the tax treaty. So therefore, you cannot apply the same principles over here, what you interpret, how you interpret the domestic tax law. And that's where it becomes very, very imperative to understand the basic concepts of international taxation. Once you have understood the basic concepts, then it's easier to go on to the advanced level. So this particular course, ADIT, the Advanced Diploma in International Taxation, which is offered by the Chartered Institution of Taxation UK, CIOT, takes you from the basic to the advanced level in international taxation. This course will help you understanding the complex concepts of international tax law, how to interpret the tax treaties, how to understand and apply the tax treaties in a practical way. That's what you would be learning here. And since now you want to get into from the corporate tax which is introduced in UAE, and from that area specifically you want to know how to interpret the tax treaties, this is something which will really, really benefit everyone who wants to make their career in international tax. So I'm being always asked a question as to why one should do ADIT. So first of all, you have to understand that there are not many courses which are full-fledgedly covering only international tax. So you might have learned international tax as a certain subject in any of your courses that you might have done, but it is not something that is comprehensively touching upon the international. So this particular course, the diploma course, which is structured in a way that it comprehensively focuses only on international tax transfer pricing, this will give you a very much holistic knowledge. You would be understanding, you are hearing a lot of words on LinkedIn, on social media, in the newspapers, in financial papers about the BEPS taking place, the multilateral multilateral instrument being signed by different countries. Now we have OECD Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 project. What is it all about? You might not be knowing the nuances of that, but this course will give you the idea or will help you to understand it in a very much detailed manner. So this course is not only something which will enable you to learn these concepts, but you will be able to apply these concepts in a practical manner. Whenever you want to apply any concepts practically, it is important to have a study of that in a fundamental manner, because only when you would have learned that subject fundamentally, you would be better able to apply that in a practical manner, because your concepts are fundamentally clear. There's a strong foundation which is there. This course lays down that foundation. You would be then very much easily able to understand the tax treaties, apply it for your clients. You would not be afraid of all these big concepts which you are now looking at. Additionally, you get the professional identity. You get to join the CIOT as an international tax affiliate. You can use ADIT besides your name. So this will definitely give you a competitive edge. It will help you escalate your career. It will help you to give that recognition, because you have learned something in a way which is only on the specific area that you are focusing into. It's a very, very specialized course. So that's where this course is very important if you want to develop or take your career into international tax to next level. Now, what is the structure of this course looks like? So this course has total 3 modules, or we'll call it 3 papers. The module 1 is the compulsory module, which is Principles of International Taxation. This is a compulsory module. All of these are 100 marks paper, full-fledged papers, not the MCQ exam. And that's where, you see this course is something which is, designed in a manner that it makes your study very, very, very comprehensive. It's not that, there are certain courses which are just MCQ based, but it's not that easy. So you have to put in your hard work to pass this particular course. It's not difficult at the same time that you are not able to pass, but you have to put your hard work. So the first paper is the Principles of International Taxation. In module 2 and module 3, you have option, meaning you can select any 2 papers from module 2 or module 3. So it's not that you have to select one paper from module 2, one paper from module 3. It's not like that. You can select even 2 papers from module 2 or 2 papers from module 3, or one from module 2 and one from module 3. So it's completely flexible. Based on your preferences, you can select any 2 papers. Now, generally a question will arise as to which paper we should select in module 2 and module 3. So if you see, module 2 is the jurisdiction module. It covers certain jurisdiction. Here you can select any one of these jurisdictions based on your preferences. For example, there are a lot of investments, trades with UK specifically from GCC perspective. And if your majority of your client work, or if you want to move to UK, then you should select UK tax as an option. I'm just giving an idea. It depends all on your preferences. Let's say, for example, I want to move and settle in UK. I should be knowing UK tax, because you should always know the domestic tax law in order to expand in that particular horizon in any country. Or if you want to, let's say, move to US, if you have many of the clients from US, if you're dealing more with the US transaction, take up US tax as an option. Or India and UAE have a closer investments trade network which is there. You can take India tax as an option. India is one of the interesting jurisdictions, as also UK and US. So you can take any of these options. Or if you want to skip altogether module 2, you can take 2 papers from module 3, which is more of a theme-based module, thematic module. There you have the theme-based papers. You can take energy resources as an option. UAE in GCC, you have the option, or maybe energy sector is lot more. So if you are somebody who's working into energy sector, or you want to get into that sector specifically, you want to focus on that, you have to then learn the international tax issues concerning energy, oil and gas. So you can take energy resources as an option, or you can take transfer pricing as an option. Or if you're somebody who is into indirect tax law, into VAT, because till now there was no corporate tax, so most of you might be working in the indirect taxation also, or maybe doing some part of indirect tax. So then you can take EU VAT, because principles of the VAT remains the same, right? Irrespective of whichever country you are. Of course, there would be here and there, but you can understand the basics concept. If you want to move to European region, you can take EU direct tax as an option. So it all depends on what are your preferences, what are your exactly career objective. Then additionally, you also have an option to eliminate one of these papers and opt for the extended essay option. Now, what is this extended essay option? This is nothing but thesis. The way we write our thesis for our master programs, the way we write our thesis for PhD, I would not say, because PhD theses are very, very comprehensive. This is more like master thesis, the one we write in our any of the master courses that we do. So this is more like that. If you're somebody who is doing the LLM and you have already, there is an option in LLM always to write the thesis. So if you have already done LLM thesis, you can submit that thesis here and do away with one of the paper also. So this is like a proper thesis of 15,000 to 20,000 word on any aspect of international taxation. Either you can do it on any subject which is concerning any jurisdiction module or based on the thematic module. But first you have to prepare a proposal. You have to prepare a comprehensive proposal and send it to the CIOT. So now once you send it to the CIOT will evaluate your proposal and will give you the approval for that yes, you can take the extended essay option. Generally, under extended essay option, what would happen is you have to identify that there is some lacuna which is not yet been answered or dealt with in the law. See, this is a scientific research that you may want to carry out. In the tax law, there is a scientific research that you do. You find out a certain provision and you feel that this particular point is not addressed by the tax policy. This has to be concerning the tax policy issue, not an interpretation issue. It could be an interpretation issue, but where there is some lacuna which is not addressed by the law. If you identify that, it does not have to be, if it appears that it's an essay type paper, so you can write on any topic. Let's say I would want to write on pillar 1 and I will write an essay on that. No, it doesn't have to be like that. You have to identify one problem that, okay, this is the problem in this tax policy and I would want to apply my research to answer or address that problem by giving my suggestion to the policymaker. That's what is targeted under this extended essay option. So now for attempting the extended essay, you should have the access to the resources. By resources, what I mean is that you should have access to the international online library, to the international books, because in the international tax area that you are writing, you should have access to the international tax books which are there. So there are different authors which are publishing their books on these topics. So it could be possible that, on a similar topic, somebody would have written something, but he would also not have addressed it completely. And you may have some different thoughts. It's not the case that, your research has to be extremely original. It has to be original in the way that you give the solution and address the problem. The problem could have been identified by many people across the globe. It's not possible to have innovative problem altogether. So in that particular case, it is quite possible that you may have some different way in which you want to address that problem. So in that particular case, you can identify it and approach that to CIOT that this is my proposal, this is the statement of fact, this is my question that I want to address, or this is the areas or the problems that are identified, and this is the research that we are putting to undertake or I want to undertake on these set of questions that I feel are unaddressed. By the online libraries, I mean you should have access to either the British Tax Review, to the IBFT, where these research articles are published, because then only you will get to know what other authors are viewing on the same subject. If you do not have access to these resources, because these are very, very expensive resources, then it might be difficult to undertake the research, because you would not be doing the research in a proper manner without referencing it to the people who have already done that and what new additional you are trying to bring in. So it is not just that you have to write an essay. It is a proper thesis that you have to undertake. Now, how the examination functions for ADIT. The examination are online exam. As I said, it's a 100-mark paper, the full-fledged paper. The exams happen every June and December. The international tax module is available in both June and December. However, for the jurisdiction module, the jurisdictions are only available in June except UK. So if you're opting for UK paper, you can take even in December. Other than that, jurisdiction module are only available in June. So you have to be mindful of. Thematic module are again available in June and December both, except the banking one. Banking is only available again in June. So you have to be really, really mindful as to when you are giving which paper. So I should tell you it's not that you have to give 3 exams at a time. You can give, but the subjects are so voluminous. As I said, that this is a very comprehensive course. So the subjects are so voluminous that it is not really possible to attempt 3 exams at a time. So if you're somebody who is doing this course full-time basis, you can give at least 2 modules in the same sitting. But if you're doing it on a part-time basis, you're also working and you are studying for this course, it is suggested that you give 1 paper at a time, not beyond one, because the course is very, very bulk. Specifically, the first module, which is international tax module. So it's suggested that you give 1 paper at a time. So therefore, you have to choose it wisely, that in case you are sitting for the international tax paper in June, then December you will have to give the thematic paper because the jurisdiction will not be available in case you're not opting for UK. So then again next June you can give the jurisdiction. Also you can give any paper in any sequence. It's not that you have to give first module 1, second module 2. It's not like that. You can give the papers in any sequence. So that way it's a very, very flexible and convenient exam. You can give it at your own convenience. Exam dates are not convenient. Exam dates happen on the selected dates itself, which are scheduled date. It does not happen on any other. So there are scheduled dates which are there. We'll talk about that. But exam happens only on that date. You don't have flexibility to move the exam date. But you can give in any attempt, any paper. So once you register for ADIT, the registration is valid for a period of 5 years. And within that 5-year window, you can give the exams at any point in time in June or December at the scheduled dates, any exam you want. Also, this is a home exam. You don't need to go to any centers to write the papers. You have to sit from your home. They have the Exam4 app. Through that app, you have to just give the exams. And it's a 3-hour, 15-minute exam of 100 marks. Additionally, this is an open book examination. And the passing percentage is 50% for every paper. So this is how the course structure looks like. Now coming to each paper that I would be talking about. First is the principles of international tax. In the principles of international tax, the paper or the structure of the paper is divided into 2 components. There is a part A, which is concerning the essay type question. As I said, this is not an MCQ based examination. There would be the essay type questions that you have to answer. So there would be 5 questions of 25 marks each. In part B, there are case scenarios or case studies. There are 2 questions of 25 marks each. The total paper is of 100 marks. So you have to answer any 4 questions from part A and part B, but 1 from each part has to be answered, meaning you have to at least answer 1 case study. And balance you can take from part A 3 questions, or you can do 2 case studies and 2 essay type. This is the 100 marks question that you have to answer. And you are getting 3 hours, 15 minutes, and it's an open book. In the jurisdictional module, you have again part A, part B, part C. It's divided in 3 parts. The part A has 2 mandatory questions of 25 marks. In part B, you have 2 questions of 20 marks. You have to answer any 1. And in part C, you have 4 questions of 15 marks and you have to answer any 2. All of them are essay type or the case scenario based paper. This is how the jurisdiction module is structured. Then we have the thematic module. Under thematic module, the structure is same as jurisdiction only. So part A, 2 mandatory questions, 25 marks. Part B, 2 questions, any 1 you have to answer of 20 marks. And part C, 4 questions of 15 marks, any 2. Again, in thematic, you have the combination of the essay type and the case scenario based question. This is how the paper structure looks like. Now, what are the deadlines that you have to adhere? So first is the student registration deadline, which is if you want to sit for this December attempt, you have to register before September 2nd. In case you want to sit for June 25, it would be March 2nd. So this is a deadline which is approaching in the next week itself. So you have to register prior to that, because there are times when the credit cards don't get accepted on the last day. So it becomes, a problem on the last day if you do not register prior, because there is rush always at the last minute. So it is advised that in case you make up your mind to register, if you want to sit for December exam, please register before 2nd September. Now, generally a question would arise from you is that, is it sufficient time? Even if we register now, is it sufficient time for December? It is very well a sufficient time. It's September, October, November, 3 months you are having. So if you are able to devote at least 1 to 2 hours per day and 4 to 5 hours on the weekend, it is not difficult. If you are not able to spare this much, you can think about the next attempt in June exam. If you are able to commit this much, 1 to 2 hours a day and 4 to 5 hours on weekend, you would be able to sit for the December examination. So it's not very difficult. The exam entry, you have to register for the exam by September 16th. It's not 26th, 16th. Then in case you miss that, you have an extended date of September 30 also. But you will have to pay late fee in case you miss September 16th. So there are two deadlines. One is student registrations on September 2nd. That will be valid for a period of 5 years. And then exam that you want to choose, which you want to write in December, you have to choose that. So exam form is on September 16th. And then the exam will happen between December 10 to December 12. So 10 will be your international tax, 11 will be jurisdiction module, UK, and then 12th will be the thematic module. So whichever paper you would want to write, it will happen on December 10th if you are opting for international tax as the first paper. Now, how the syllabus is of ADI. Under international tax, you have OECD, Model Convention, and the commentary as the base. This is going to be the Bible for you. So your reference material is going to be OECD, Model Convention, and commentary. This is going to form the basis of international tax. So yes, you will undergo the entire OECD model commentary. See, if you're somebody who is doing a lot of tax work, this is really helpful if you know the OECD commentary, isn't it? So if you have done OECD commentary, if you have read across the OECD commentary, this will help you to understand and apply it in a more practical manner, isn't it? So here you would be studying the international tax commentary, OECD model commentary, and the convention. You have UN model commentary, but UN deviates from OECD in certain articles. You will study those because otherwise it's more or less based on the OECD itself. You have BEPS action plan 1 to 15. You have multilateral instrument. You have OECD pillar 1 and pillar 2, amount A, amount B, all of that. You have OECD profit attribution report, OECD harmful tax competition report, MAP, the dispute resolution, the peer review reports which are published by OECD, Vienna Convention on Law of Treaty, everything. So whatever falls under the ambit of international tax, it will be there under principles of international tax. And that's what makes this paper very bulky. Whatever tax policies, the reports around that which are published by OECD are forming base of your syllabus under PIT paper. Now, you would ask the question that whether we are required to read all of these reports, because if you go through any of these reports, it's running more than 400, 500 pages, sometimes more than 1,000 pages. Ideally, yes, but it's humanly not possible. And that's where, the coaching will help you to have that kind of summarization of all the reports, because we have gone through all those reports in detail so that you don't have to go through in detail. And that's where you rely on coaching, number one. Number two, we advise you to read certain portions of all of these reports, because then you are required to write that in your answer paper. So that's what would be the coverage of the PI. It's not based on domestic tax law of any one single jurisdiction. It's purely international tax. You're learning from the very global perspective. Under the jurisdiction module, you're required to study the tax laws of the specific countries that you're selecting, but the international tax issues in those domestic countries. Then under the thematic module, again, you would have, let's say, EU direct tax. I've spoken here more about transfer pricing, because transfer pricing is one such paper which is more commonly opted. There you have the OECD and the UNTP guidelines, BEPS action plan 8 to 10, 13, OECD profit attribution report, all of it. So this is what is the syllabus for ADI. Now, as I mentioned to you, this is an open book examination. What should we refer for that particular open book? Can we refer anything? The answer is no. You have to refer only the permitted text. Now, what are the permitted texts which are given? For PIT, the permitted text is OECD Model Convention and the commentary, OECD BEPS report, the TP guidance on financial transaction, OECD TP guidelines, because transfer pricing, there is certain portion of that under the PIT also. Of course, the detailed transfer pricing, you have separate paper in case you opt for that, but there is some portion of transfer pricing under PIT also. UN model, all of that is the permitted text. Additionally, there is one book available in the market which is Keys Van Zar. Now, volume A of that you can purchase. That is not any book which is containing any analysis of these particular syllabus. It's just the compilation of all of this, all the OECD reports, OECD commentary, UN commentary, everything at one place. So if you feel that I do not want to purchase 4-5 books, 4-5 reports, I want everything at one place, you can purchase Keys One One. But that's again very, very expensive. So see, you can either purchase all of these materials, OECD model convention, all of that, or you can just simply take the print of this also. So if you take the print of that, that is also permitted. It's not necessary you have to buy these books because they're very expensive. So then you can skip Keys One One if you do not want to get into purchasing that. For jurisdictional, there are prescribed books. You can just go to the CIOT website. In case you're opting for any of the jurisdiction, you will see the prescribed material for each of those jurisdictions. For thematic also, it's the same thing. But concerning the transfer pricing, as I said, this is the most commonly opted paper. You have the OECD model convention and commentaries, again, the BEPS report, the OECD profit attribution report, TP guidance on financial transactions, OECD TP guideline, UN model, UN practice manual on transfer pricing, or you can purchase Keys One One and use for both PIT and TP both. See, whatever text you are taking the print for PIT, you can also use more or less for TP also. For TP, you can take additional prints for like UN practice manual and all of that, but more or less it will be useful for both. And why TP is the most commonly opted paper is because see, when you are practicing in the corporate income tax, you would have often deal with the issues concerning the tax treaty interpretation as well as the TP. TP and international tax both are coherently integrated or related to each other. It's not that you can just advise to client on PIT or on the interpretation of tax treaty and leave TP apart. So when you're advising, you have to look from both the angles, and that's why it is most commonly opted paper for anybody who wants to get into international tax or is into corporate income tax. Understanding TP also becomes equivalently important, and in UAE it is now picking up. Transfer pricing is picking up quite a lot because of the introduction of TP under the corporate income tax code. So it becomes very, very important to understand transfer pricing. And if you see for transfer pricing, it's not a very vast syllabus as compared to PIT. Even the papers are not as difficult as PIT. So see, once you clear the PIT paper, the other papers are not that bulky or difficult. Plus the questions are also more or less predictable for the other papers. But PIT, the questions are very unpredictable. The questions, the syllabus is very, very bulky. It's very comprehensive. So you have to give a lot of time as compared to other papers. Now the question arises, though it's an open book, you have all of these materials. But my question would be, do you have really time in examination to refer to the books, even to the permitted text? See, the question can come from any place in the PIT paper. In transfer pricing, you can refer because the questions will be more or less surrounding these 2-3 areas only. See, transfer pricing is mostly based on OECD TP guidelines or UN TP guidelines. UN TP guidelines are also more or less based on OECD TP guidelines only with some variation. And then you have the limited BEPS action plan 8 to 10 and 30. So in the transfer pricing, at least you can keep on referring to the material. But again, there will also be the shortage of time. But in the PIT, there are so many materials which are there. Now, when the question would come, first of all, the questions are never repeated. All of the, at each attempt, every time you have different questions. So it is not possible to have the answer ready from the OECD model commentary. And the questions are also not that they will ask you that, okay, describe pillar 1. It's not going to be like that. The questions will examine your analytical capacity, how you are able to answer that. They will examine that, write a report to the tax officer regarding the approach to be followed, or they would examine that, write a report to the taxpayer suggesting him what he should do in a particular case, or give your opinion about a particular tax policy. Now these answers would not be directly available from OECD commentary, and if you start searching on that, you would not find anything, plus you will waste time. So students often complain about the shortage of time while writing the answers because they think it's an open book exam and we should start searching, but that's not the way how you approach. Yes, it's an open book exam. You have to refer permitted text when you want to quote a paragraph from a comment. So you have to write with the para number that para 30 says so and so, but you would not be able to find the answers and it would be just a waste of time. So as far as the entire course is concerned, so the question would arise that should we memorize and everything? The answer is no. You may have to memorize few things, but once you understand the course in a very conceptual manner, because all of these are practical papers having so much of practical relevance. So once you start understanding the course in a practical fashion, you would not have to memorize anything, and you will not also have a need to refer back again and again, because it will get registered in your mind and you'll be easily able to develop your answers. See, one advantage of essay type question is that there is never wrong or right answer. It's just the opinion, unless you write something absurd. So you have to just give your opinion, and by that means if you have the conceptual clarity, you'll be able to frame your opinion. So that's how the permitted text has to be referred. So with regard to this course, since it's a very wide syllabus, as I said, conceptual clarity is the must. You need to study the OECD model convention in detail, its commentary, all the BEPS report. The tip is to practice as much as possible. So as a part of course, what we do is in the live sessions that we conduct. So we have a blend of recorded and the live session. The recorded sessions cover the entire syllabus. The live sessions, we give the question banks before each live session. And you are expected to solve those question banks and then participate in the live class so that we can correct your approach. Because the way you answer the question is very, very important when you are writing your analysis. So practice as much as possible the past papers, the question banks, and also how do you write the answer is very, very important. Because in ADIT, as I said, there's no wrong or right answer, but it's the analysis that we develop. So if you look at a question, in the first 5 minutes, spend 5 minutes patiently understanding the question and then developing your points. Think that I have to write on these 5 points. Do not jump directly to write the answer, because what would happen when you directly jump to write the answers, in that case you miss out on certain points which you should have written, because you have not framed the answer at the start. See, whenever you even write a book or whenever you write a report, you frame an index. Similar thing you have to do at the start of every question before even attempting that. Think these are the 5 points I want to answer. With that way, you will not even beat around the bush. You will precisely write on those 5 points by expanding them further. So whenever you attempt any question, you have to give the headings of those 5 points that you have prepared. By that means even the examiner will have ease to understand what you are saying. If you directly jump to the answer, you will just beat around bush. You will start writing something which is not even related. Let's say, for example, if the question is on whether Pillar 1 is the correct policy for the developing countries, what students do is they will just write about Pillar 1. Pillar 1 has amount A, amount B, amount A talks about 20% allocation, all of that. It is not even necessary to write about just Pillar 1. What is the question asking you? It is asking whether it is helping the developing countries. So you write, introduce about what is Pillar 1, then jump out to your analysis that whether it is helping the developing countries, how the developing countries are going to gain out of that. Compare it with Article 12B of UN model and say that this is more advantageous as compared to this. Talk about the equalization levy or digital service taxes each country has, whether they were gaining more out of that. And that's how you write your analysis. See, I don't have even any book with me, but if it's conceptually clear, you would be able to attempt. Also, another important tip for examination is that you have to keep yourself updated. Follow the updates on the OECD. Subscribe to the mailers of the OECD. Stay updated on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place, I say, to get updated, because everybody is just keep on posting the updates as and when come. So you'll be updated as to what is happening globally. What are the important decisions that are coming out globally? See, as I said, that this is not concerning any particular jurisdiction, any of these papers, except the module 2. But there are sometimes the important decisions which are rendered in the jurisdiction, which are important from global perspective because they are interpretation of tax treaty. So you have to stay updated with the decisions which are rendered globally. It's not that you have to remember all the decisions every court is giving. There are certain key decisions that you get to know. For example, UK Supreme Court had rendered the decision in Fowler case concerning the interpretation of the tax treaty. Indian Supreme Court has recently given the decision in most favored nation clause. It is important as to how do we understand the tax treaty? So you have to stay updated. You have to be updated with the new OECD reports which are coming in. It is seen that even if the exam is in June and the report is released by OECD in February, the questions are asked on that. So only when you will be updated, you will be able to write those answers, isn't it? So you have to be aware as to what OECD is coming up. And the good part of OECD is that it's not necessary that you have to read the entire report. The OECD also publishes the summary of that report. So you can just refer to the summary of that report as well, isn't it? That way, you will be able to prepare in a better way. Now, coming to the cost of ADIT. So as I said, first you have to register as a student. So there's a student registration fee of £242, which you have to pay to CIOT before 2nd of September. This is a one-time fee, which is valid for a period of 5 years. If 5 years expire, you will have to renew your student registration. Then you have per exam entry fee. So whenever, let's say for example, I'm sitting for PIT paper in December, I will have to pay £222, which is for PIT. In case I clear PIT, I'm appearing for transfer pricing in June, I have to again pay £222. Even if I do not clear PIT, I have to reappear for PIT, I will have to again pay £222. So it's per exam fee that I have to pay. In case you do the extended essay, so you have the registration fee for that. And as I said, the deadline for exam fee is 16th of September. In case you miss that deadline, so you have the additional fee, you can do the exam registration by 30th of September, but with a late fee of £103. Are we clear? And every year this fee will keep on changing. As I said, in case you wish to join before the September 2nd, you will have to make the enrollment. Now, what are the materials to be referred for preparing for the examination? Specifically for PIT, I'm talking about. Read the OECD model commentary. As I said, you have to read the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaty. You have to read Pillar 1, Pillar 2, the executive summary. It's humanly impossible to go through both in such a short time frame. Of course, you can go through over a period of time. You should have knowledge of the peer review reports which are published by OECD, harmful tax competition report, OECD profit attribution report, OECD and TP guidelines, UN model commentary wherever it is differing from the OECD commentary, the BEPS report summary. So you have to go through all of that. Now, how to approach the examination? So as I said, do not waste time looking for answers in permitted text. If you're conceptually clear, you can develop your own answer. Write the point-wise answer. And as I said, frame answers before you attempt. Wherever you want to write the referencing from the OECD model commentary, quote that this is what the commentary says. Do not just copy paste from commentary and write in the answer. They have the checks to see whether your answers are plagiarized. There are students who get the notices from CIOT that they have written the answers from the past year paper. So every year CIOT publishes the past year paper. Along with that, it gives the suggested answers. So in transfer pricing, as I said, the questions are more or less predictable, repetitive. So what students do is they just copy from the past year suggested answer. Now you will ask me whether they are allowed to do that, because the permitted text does not say that you have to refer the suggested answer. Yes, the permitted text does not do that. So how do they do that? So when you sit for the examination, you have to log in to the Exam4 app and your screen will get freezed completely. You cannot use any other app. You will be visible from camera. But if you see at this moment, this much portion of mine is only visible on camera, isn't it? So whatever I'm referring here, whether I'm referring OECD commentary, whether I'm referring suggested answer, you will not be able to know that, isn't it? So I can refer anything basically, but they know how to do the checks of the plagiarism. So they have caught people copying from the past year papers, which is not allowed. So even if you write from OECD commentary, make the reference. If possible, if you have time, make the para reference, looking from the book. There are some students who use ChatGPT to write the answers. They have caught them also. There was a student who was caught for using the ChatGPT on the other laptop he had. So this laptop will get freeze. But if you are using another system and from there also you are developing answers and putting it here, you can't do that. They will catch hold of you. And if they do so, they will form a committee to review your paper and you can get barred from the ADIT itself. So do not make resort to such attempt. Further, as I said that these are essay type questions, so there is no wrong or right answer. It's just how you approach with your analytical ability. Also, one important point for examination. It's better to attempt all the questions rather than just selecting 3 best answers. It should not happen that you skip one answer, you fall short of time, but you're writing 3 in a very good manner. So the chances are seen that students who attempt all have better chances of clearing, because at least you have written something for all the questions rather than just writing 3 best answers. Because these are subjective papers, right? It's an analytical answer that you're forming. It's quite possible that the examiner might not agree with you and may give you lesser score than you expect. So it's better you manage your time and attempt all the questions rather than just writing the 3 answers or whatever are required in any paper. Now, how we can help you for ADIT? So as I said, we have a comprehensive training for PIT. So it's a 75 hours of training in international tax and 50 hours on transfer pricing. There is a hybrid structure with blend of recorded and the live session. So in the recorded sessions, there will be comprehensive coverage of your syllabus. The live sessions will have the question bank solving, and all the recent areas which are pillar 1, pillar 2 will get covered through the live sessions so that we can have a discussion with the student. I will be taking up the entire paper. You would be given the weekly question banks to solve, as well as there will be 2 mock examination which will happen so that we get your progress checked. Also, the recorded sessions, you can watch it at your flexibility. So recorded sessions are kept like divided into 30 minutes or 45 minutes each lecture. You can watch on the go at your convenience. There are no restrictions on the number of views, and these are available till you give your examination. And secondly, our major focus would be 2 things. One is application practically of whatever you are studying. So all the recorded sessions have empty number of examples, the case laws, the treaty interpretation example, country examples, where you will get an idea how would you apply practically, because the examination is one thing, but you want to apply it practically at a later point. The live sessions would focus on exam presentation. So that's how the course is structured in a way to give you the blend of both, that you pass for the examination as well as to get you the practical clarity. Also, the live sessions happen on Saturdays. We'll be starting from September. So the live sessions happen on Saturdays, which is 5 to 6:30 India time, which will be 3:30 GCC or GST, right? GCC time 3:30 would be the time on Saturday, which is for 1.5 hour maximum. The lecture would be there every Saturday, and those lectures also get recorded. In case you miss it, you will have the recordings available with you.